And we've got Rebecca Marmot here, Chief Sustainability Officer and Global Vice President at Unilever, our host today. And Rebecca also launched the Unilever Foundation, which focuses on innovative business models for impact. Rebecca, I'm going to turn to you first of all, if I may. And obviously Unilever work in many countries around the world, and in those countries people are impacted by malnutrition and hunger. And it'd be great if you could explain how it impacts your business and what role you think business and others should play in tackling it.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone, and thanks very much, Jonny and the team, for inviting us to be part of this. I think you've heard already from David Cameron, David Miliband, there is a huge role for government to play and a number of other stakeholders. But I think business, it really does have an absolutely critical role to play when it comes to tackling malnutrition. We've heard about the moral imperative to help, and of course that is a driving factor. But there is also a critical business and economic case. We did some work with Simon and the team at the Power of Nutrition, looking globally at the impact of malnutrition on the inability for countries to be able to grow, to be able to develop, for businesses to be able to thrive. And we've seen that there are literally billions of pounds being lost every year in productivity. So absolutely critical that business does play a role and step up. At Unilever, we try to tackle these big systemic problems in 4 stages. So I think the most important thing, firstly, is you need to get your own house in order. So as you said, we are in virtually every country in the world, and therefore we have a big footprint in developing and emerging markets where we know the issue of malnutrition is really chronic. So we start with our own employees. So we have a programme called Healthier You, where we invite in our employees to talk to them about some of the basic issues that they might be facing. So helping them to improve their own nutrition, to improve their own diet, and taking a holistic approach. And we've seen that when we do that, not only does it have a positive impact on our employees, but actually on their families and in the communities where they're living. I think the second thing is looking what we can do across our value chain. So, for example, we did a study with GAIN, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, to look at how could we help Indian farmers to boost their productivity. And we found that when we talked to the farmers, one of the biggest barriers, unsurprisingly, was chronic hunger and malnutrition. So actually, by encouraging them to take iodine and iron supplements and really helping to improve the dietary diversity that they had every day, we saw not only an improvement in their health, but also that then correlated to improved yields. The farmers were then flourishing, making more money. I think third thing is, what can we do through our brands? So we have the opportunity through a number of really huge, big global brands to put these kind of issues front and centre in our consumer communication. So, for example, we've done a piece of work with Khunga looking at dietary diversity. We did some research with the Lancet, the Eat Lancet report that came out about 18 months ago, which actually focused in on the fact that too many of us are eating the same kinds of foods all the time, which leads to the kind of chronic food shortages that we heard David Cameron talking about. So increasing dietary diversity is really, really critical. And then when we put that front and centre of consumer campaigns, it helps. And then the last thing is, what can we and other businesses do together to push on the kind of advocacy and policy priorities we've heard talked about this morning?
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Huge amounts, obviously, Unilever are doing, and that is great to hear. I mean, I think it's fair to say that not necessarily every business is kind of as involved and enlightened, I suppose, as you are. And one of the things which we're going to try to do is ensure that we bring as many businesses as we can to help explain to them. And obviously, I think the consumers really care about what their businesses are doing as well. And I wanted to ask you really how you think we can best work with businesses and other partners to really make sure that they are coming to the table and using all of the tools which they've got, as you've explained.
So I think a lot of these big issues you need to, as a private sector player, look at pre-competitively. So a lot of the work that we would be doing, whether it's on outreach programs around the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's on global coalitions, I think it's really important to establish what you can do together. So a good example at the moment, as a foods manufacturer, as well as having other parts of our portfolio, we're doing a lot of work to try and shift the global agricultural system towards regenerative agriculture, because we know, and we've heard, the chronic food shortages at the moment, exacerbated by the current macro-political context. So actually, as an example, we're working at the moment with Pepsi to try and understand, well, how could we work together with some of our really big suppliers to look at improving productivity, protecting the earth, regenerating soil, putting farmers front and centre of the solutions to ensure that we're coming up with new solutions and value chains that try to combat some of these big issues.
Good. And I think, making sure that we do see that food system change and investing in that so that we're kind of future-proofing, if you like, for what we all know to come, whether that be climate or pandemic.